What was supposed to be a defense might have just made things worse, because the more Claressa Shields talks, the more questions people have. Claressa Shields might have just exposed more than she intended. The way she tried to defend herself in her recent live stream actually raised even more suspicions instead of clearing things up. Before getting into it, everything discussed here is alleged and based on public commentary and personal opinion for entertainment purposes. So the situation involves Claressa Shields, Papoose, 50 Cent, and a man known as Bud. Recently, things have been quiet surrounding the situation, but Claressa decided to go live and address some of the claims that have been circulating. The problem is that instead of shutting the rumors down, her responses seem to leave even more gaps in the story. Many people expected Claressa to come with solid proof that she barely knew Bud, or that he was simply a random fan. That was the impression she gave previously. But during the live, she never actually refuted several of the key things Bud claimed. For example, he said he helped pick out things in her house, like a bathtub and even a bedroom set. Those are not the kinds of things you usually do with someone you barely know. Another detail that raised eyebrows was the timing. Around Christmas, most people spend time with close friends and family, yet Bud was reportedly around during that holiday period. That naturally made people question how someone described as a stranger could end up inside her personal circle during such a personal time. During the live stream, Claressa also replayed the same partial recording that had been posted earlier, where Bud says he hadn't slept with her, but the full conversation was never shown. Instead, the clip kept repeating. She also played Papoose's song multiple times, praising it, but critics online pointed out that despite the promotion, the track hasn't really created major momentum beyond the initial buzz. At the same time, Claressa continued saying she plans to sue 50 Cent, while also calling him names during the live. That approach could be risky, because if accusations are being made publicly, it could open the door for challenges or legal pushback. Another part of the live that caught attention was when Claressa tried to show text messages to prove Bud was lying. However, the messages she showed didn't start from the beginning of the conversation. Instead, she began reading messages from January 2025, even though the alleged incident people are talking about reportedly happened around Christmas 2024. That gap immediately stood out to viewers. If the earlier messages weren't shown, it leaves people wondering what the full conversation looked like before January. Bud had previously tried to present a timeline showing he had been around Claressa multiple times before that. According to him, they had been at interviews together, studio sessions, and even public events like the premiere connected to her biopic. The point he seemed to be making was that their connection wasn't random or sudden. Meanwhile, Claressa's public timeline regarding her relationship with Papoose has also been questioned. She has said publicly that their relationship started around August 2024, but in other interviews she mentioned they had been communicating in DMs since around 2020, which suggests the connection might go back much further than originally stated. That leads to another theory some people online are discussing. The idea is that the relationship with Papoose may have been more private for a long time and only became public after things were exposed by Remy Ma. If that is true, some believe it could explain why other interactions were happening quietly in the background. When Claressa read the DMs on her live, the tone of the conversation also raised questions. The messages sounded like two people who had an ongoing relationship, or at least a personal back and forth, not like strangers or a fan interaction. Critics also pointed out that several other names have been mentioned as people who allegedly knew about the situation, including Scrappy and influencer Geisha305. If multiple people are aware of the same story, it naturally adds fuel to the speculation online. Another confusing point was the request for photos to be deleted. In the messages shown, Claressa apparently asked Bud to remove certain pictures, but people online questioned why that would be necessary if the relationship was purely innocent or professional. That's why many viewers came away from the live feeling that the explanation didn't fully address the claims being made. Instead of clearly denying the details, the conversation seemed to move around them. In situations like this, sometimes responding publicly can actually make things more complicated, because once details start coming out, people begin examining timelines, messages, and interactions very closely. At the end of the day, Claressa likely intended to defend herself and shut down the rumors, but for many watching the live, it had the opposite effect. Instead of clearing things up, it created even more questions about what really happened behind the scenes. And now the internet is waiting to see whether more receipts, messages, or responses will surface that could either confirm or completely shut down the story.